so just a couple things. We'll talk about the hard stuff first, because I think that's usually the more complicated, especially considering there's so many different things on those little cards. But again, that's from the nursing department, so they're a little bit more involved when it comes to this stuff. The basics that you guys need to do are S1, S2, S3, and S4. So you have S1, which is the lub, and S2, which is the dub. We also have 4 valves, obviously. So there's aortic, pulmonary, which are also known as the lunar, the tricuspid, and the mitral, which is also known as the bicuspid. So the lub and the dub, what is making the first sound? So what's happening, first of all? Ventricles, atrium, and then the valves. So what is making this lub sound, first of all?
The bicuspid and tricuspid excluded.
Okay. So that's that first one. And so this is between the chambers, right? So the ventricles contract. It forces these two. It forces these two to shut. The ventricles contract.
After the atrium has contracted and pushed all the blood down, because they have to be open when the atrium contracts.
I think you guys had it the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had it wrong.
Yeah. So it's actually these ones that close first.
So it doesn't go back the opposite way then?
Okay. If you look at YouTube videos on like how the heart valves work, it's actually a little bit easier to understand. So during the break, if you guys want to just YouTube a couple of it just to draw a clearer picture, it might really help. Okay. So this lub are the ventricles contracting and these valves closing. Okay. While that's happening, the atrium are filling. Okay. And then as the atria fill, they'll contract. Well, the whole thing will contract actually. And so when the whole thing contracts, the blood from the atria move to the ventricles. Right, and the ventricles contract, push blood in through the aorta and pulmonary arteries. And then as the atria contract, in order for blood to move in that forward direction, so to prevent backflow from the aorta back into the ventricles, the aortic valve and the pulmonary artery close as well to prevent backflow into the ventricles. Okay. I'll do my best to draw on this. I'll put up a clip on the 2 computers so that when you guys come back from break, you can take a look at it. Okay. So anyways, S3, beginning of diastole, right after S2, so that's that extra sound you would hear. And they both occur generally in diastole. And then at the end of diastole, that's when the S4 sound is typically heard. So you might have one sound, you might have both sounds, you might have S3 by itself or S4 by itself. So the question is, what do these sounds indicate? Now there are some benign ones where it could just be a timing of the valves. So like one of the valves, so one on the right side will close first and then the other one next. So timing's off, so you'll hear an extra click. Instead of hearing a dub, the dub is actually split into 2, like lub, dub, dub. Okay? So, and that's just a timing thing. Typically that's not an issue. The issue comes when the valves are actually broken. When it allows backflow of blood, that's when you run into some issues. Okay. So, pathological rationale for S3. I think Brent, you and Colby, we're looking some things up on that one particular website. So, what did you guys find for S3? What could cause those noises?
When the ventricles aren't filled up enough.
Okay.
And the bicuspid and tricuspid valves are not fully closing,
Okay.
so then there's backflow.
Yeah. Okay. So again, if the valves aren't working, then you'll get some extra leakage or backflow. Was there any conditions that they described for those, for S3? Or was it mainly S4 where all the conditions?
There's some on these sheets for S3.
Okay.
We wrote down pericardial knock,
Okay.
pericardial knock, and holosystolic.
Okay. So those are just fancy terms, which obviously you really don't need to know. With S4, what did you guys grab from the website as well?
That you have hypertrophic ventricles
Okay.
because they have to increase in muscle to push that blood through the smaller opening.
Okay, good. So for us being athletic therapists, that's the one that you need to focus on the most, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, because you'll typically find that with Marfan syndrome. Which is typical of like basketball players. Okay, I think some of you have heard that before.
What's it called?
Marfan syndrome.
Marfan?
M-A-R-F-A-N.
Yeah. Cardiomyopathy.
And then hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, or HCM. So, like if you look in Arnheim's book, they'll have a list of different conditions that can cause sudden death. Okay, and they're normally, and obviously they're cardiac related, but they're abnormalities or problems with the heart. So the purpose of listening to those heart sounds is to pick up anything abnormal. So obviously there's so many different abnormal things, and if you hear that, it's one red flag. Put together that with some information from their previous histories that would suggest that there might not be adequate blood flow to the rest of the body, which would be what? So what kind of symptoms would they complain of? Or what might have happened to them in the past if they don't have adequate blood flow while they're exercising?
Dizziness.
Dizziness, good. Syncope. Okay, so those are two main things. Fainting. Okay, so fainting during exercise or as a result of exercise. Lightheadedness and dizziness as a result of exercise. Obviously, if people push themselves, they're going to get a little bit dizzy. But if they're not exerting themselves tremendously and they get dizzy and lightheaded as a result, and they have a murmur, that's a red flag to have them to get what's called a cardiac workup. Okay, so a cardiac workup, they do EKG readings and then they do a stress test. Okay. So I realized that there was a lot of information on those little cards. But I just wanted to make sure you guys understand that there's so many different variations of heartbeats out there. Okay? What we're looking for is anything outside love and dub. If there's anything extra, you need to ask them more history questions about their past. Okay? And if there's a red flag in the history and you hear a murmur, then it's a good idea to refer. Okay, so I hope you can take something away from that. With the breath sounds, wheezing, stridor, crackles, rhonchi. There's also gurgling and snoring and so on and so forth, but these five are the main ones. On the right-hand side, description of the sound, that's how it's described on most websites. How you describe it in your own, using your own adjectives is completely up to you based on what you heard. But what would cause wheezing?
Asthma.
Asthma, good. So that's lower airway, but high pitch. That's usually around where the bronchioles are. A little bit higher in the airway, you'll get stridor. Okay, so it'll be during inhalation. Crowing is just a high-pitched noise, like a bird. So that's why they use the word crowing. So what would cause that?
Choking.
Choking, good. Upper airway obstruction. What can cause that in children, like kids? So think about Pee-wee and some of the wrestling events you guys are going to do as well. What's the little flap of skin that or a little flap of tissue that blocks off the trachea and esophagus. Sorry. Okay, so when kids get sick, that can get swollen, so epiglottitis. And there's another condition called croup. And those are sicknesses kids can get when they're, like obviously when they're younger, but it'll affect their airway. Okay, and stridor is something you may hear if they have an infection in there. So crackles, the only difference between fine and coarse crackles is the tone and the duration. So fine crackles is quicker, but it's higher pitch, and then coarse ones are more dull and a little bit longer. I was hoping, did you guys get a chance to hear the difference between the two?
It was hard to hear the coarse one. Like
Okay.
it sounded to us like it was quicker than that one.
Okay. We'll try them on the mannequins. There are some websites, so some of the links that I have on here actually have noises, like the same noises you heard on there. You can hear on your computer as well, so it should give you a pretty good idea. What causes those? Okay, yeah, so basically fluid. It's usually a result of the alveoli. So if you take like a bubble wrap and you kind of roll it in your hands, it's kind of the same noise.
Both of them are from that?
Typically from fluid, yeah. With fine crackles, it also suggests on some sources that it could be a fibrotic heart, so a heart that doesn't is not as pliable, so an older heart could cause fine crackles as well. Okay, so again, you may not hear that in a younger person, but if you do, think about it being fluid, or think about some other type of heart disease. Again, not a bad idea to refer. And last but not least, rhonchi. Exhalation, low pitch, a little bit deeper into the bases. Did you guys find out what rhonchi was? Bronchitis. So fluid down below. Normally that clears with a little bit of, like, you know when people go and it clears a little bit? Okay, that noise, before they clear it, if you put a stethoscope on their chest, you'll hear kind of low pitch movement in the bases. Okay. So good. Do you guys have any questions about the heart sounds and breathing sounds? Okay. Do you guys need a break? Want to take a quick one? Quick 5 minutes? Okay. Quick 5 minutes. When you guys come back, you're going to have to give or have your partner auscultate your chest, so front and back. We have curtains if you want as well. And so we'll do auscultation when you guys come back. Okay?
We're so past that now. People just get interested in the classroom.
Make your stomach sound good. And I think it's an abnormal. What is that say?
There, and you're just stunning.
Woke up last night at like 3 o'clock. It sounded like somebody was bouncing a ball against the wall. I guess upstairs they were being really loud above me too. Probably were bouncing a ball against the wall.
You're the valve.
Yeah.
Your heart has 4 valves that act like doors.
I got
The
tickets
valves
for
have 2 jobs.
just road
First,
games.
they open to allow
Adidas.
blood to flow in. Or
Yeah.
out. They close to prevent blood from flowing
But it's
where
on
it shouldn't
Thursday
flow.
nights.
The heart valve flows blood.
Is that the one downtown?
I think the Roadhouse is really close.
Normally, the heart is divided into 4 separate
Oh, like
chambers.
what's that?
Blue
Oh,
or low
yeah.
oxygen blood returns from the body and is pumped out to the lungs to receive
No, that's
oxygen.
Ranch.
Red or oxygenated
Oh,
blood
yeah,
returns
that's
from the lungs
Roadhouse.
and is
Roadhouse.
pumped out to the
Roadhouse.
body to supply the
That's the
tissues.
one downtown, like right off the main nice thing go, I think.
I know. Yeah, I'm not as excited anymore.
Yeah, Yeah, that place looks weird. I've never seen it.
I don't want to go to the road.
How did you get that if you didn't go there?
My roommate had them. Or, well, Heather and her friends. So I went them last night.
Oh yeah. Take it back late.
She didn't come by. She stayed at her boyfriend's house. I guess she was monitoring this huge. They were alive on later. Because he was throwing up. And then the girl like passed her. Crazy.
Yeah, I feel like the older you get, like the more crazy you get.
Do you like the black ones more?
I'm just trying to figure out which ones hurt less.
Did you buy this?
No.
This was the one they gave you?
Yeah. Those ones hurt less.
You have like a thing that turns and everything.
Yeah, I get the deep sound and the
Other side.
Yeah. the other sound.
I don't know what
Deep and not deep, just by twisting. Where you press harder, not press harder. For your
What's this one? If you press harder.
you press harder, you get deeper, I think.
Deep. Yeah.
I can't remember which one's deep and which one's not though for this guy.
I think the big one's deep.
Yeah,
I don't know.
facing up or out. The hole is.
Oh yeah.
What's the hole?
High.
Okay.
Sure.
When we have a longer break, I'm going to get your money that I owe you for McDonald's.
Oh yes. I'm waiting for my roommate to give me money. Give me change back.
Yes, I got McDonald's last night and then it before.
You got it last night too?
We
Lucky.
made us stop actually.
And then I forgot my hot chocolate in the car, so I started running after I talked.
Oh my
She's not breathing.
What?
I just
She's
saw
not
you in my
breathing.
rear view, like, is she going into res or is she running after me? Yeah.
And then I turned around and a whole bunch of people, they were actually volleyball players,
Oh,
were like staring at me. Oh wow. Because I had like so many bags and my foot was hurting, so I was like,
she had a McDonald's. Exactly what it looks like.
that's so funny. A hunchback running after more food.
Did you guys have anything interesting yesterday? You got a shoulder, you said, right?
Yeah, shoulder dislocation that went back in when he tried to undo his pad.
Nice.
Heard the pop and everything.
I guess I had a dislocated hip, but he popped it back in because it happens all the time.
Oh.
He's used to it. And then I had one guy who got hit in the stomach and had a whole bunch of concussion buttons. And so I did a stat with him and told him he couldn't play, and then I was like, but he didn't get hit in the head.
So
So we did functional stuff because he didn't have any symptoms by the time I was finished the stat. But then he got like sharp pain in his head when he was running, and I was like, yeah, no, you can't go back in.
Weird.
And then I had two people in the last one, the hip one, and I had a knee one. And the football players were like pushing me around because they were so like excited. And one of them like, he was like jumping around, you know how they like hit each other? He was like, do I look like a football player? And then every time they walked by me, they would like
Were they
hit me with
really
something,
winning or something?
and it was just really
It was a
close,
tie.
and I ended up being a tie.
Oh my god.
But like, if one of them hit me again, I was gonna like haul off and punch him because I was so annoyed. And then the coaches were like backing into me and stuff, and I was just like, this team.
What team was it?
Ernest Manning.
Did that
How
player?
did that guy
I guess he had been taped a couple of different ways and didn't like it, so he was trying a different way.
And he liked that way?
For
I
what?
guess so.
it was like not,
He
I
had
wouldn't
an
even
ankle.
consider it an ankle tape.
No.
He did like,
Just everything.
he did like 2 anchors way up here, right?
Yeah,
And
what were we
his
talking
pro
about
wrap
that
was like the whole foot too.
It was
And
just this, it was
Just
yesterday.
roll
Yeah.
every
Right
strand
when
of
you
like the
got there, you
roll.
guys were like,
Yeah,
Pro
he did like
wraps.
2 anchors here, and then I don't even know if he did an anchor
He
here.
didn't
Then he did stirrups. He went
to the middle of
from the inside out, which was good, but he went like here around the arch, and like his last ones were like going like this, like across, and then he did a couple closing here, and then he did like a full circle closing, and then went into like a random figure 8.
Yeah, I think he did 1 or 2 figure 8s, and that was
Yeah.
his tape up.
And underneath it, one of the coaches.
Nice.
And
No,
then
no
underneath
feel
it, it was like pro wrap from here to here,
Yeah.
like 3 layers. He was like,
So it wasn't on
Is this
any
all
skin
his
holding it in. No,
like it wasn't over
No.
a shoe.
When I
no, it's
asked,
a sock.
Oh.
when I
Over the
asked
sock.
the girl, she was like, he's really old and he used to be our sports med teacher.
Yeah.
And he's kind of crazy.
that's what she said to me. He's like the vice principal now or something. So
What's
she
his
wasn't
name?
going to be like,
I don't know yet.
Okay, so sorry, just to give you guys an idea of that love dub and the valves. I don't know if you guys can see that. Okay, so that's the love dub. Okay. So that's S1, S2. Does that like make a little more sense? Okay.
and then we could go get, oh, never mind, it's gone.
So there's a lot of good videos and explanations online of that. So.
So is the sound right when the valves close?
Yeah, so you'll get one right after this closes.
So that's 2.
Yeah. Or
S1.
right before S1. So right before this shuts, you'll get another sound.
Which is the other one open?
Yeah, which is some regurgitation up here as well.
Is anybody else sore from rehab? Oh,
Okay, so the next part of this is auscultation. On your worksheet, there's locations. Okay? So what you guys have to do is find the locations, second space by the right sternums. So the spaces are intercostal spaces. Okay, so that's what that means. You guys know where the manubrium is, I assume? Okay. And then RICS down below is right intercostal space, and then LICS is left intercostal space. Okay? So landmark where those are. Have a listen while the person is breathing. So when you're into the airway and lungs, have a listen to when the person is breathing. And then make note of what it sounds like. Under pathology at location, think about what structures you're listening to and what types of things can happen in those particular locations. Refer back to that second table. Okay. Now, you see where it says RICS. Why are there 3 different levels and there's only 2 levels with LICS? What do those represent? So now there's RICS 1 through 3, RICS 4 and 5, and RICS 6. What are those 3 levels representing?
Different lobes of the
Lobes of the lungs. Okay, so there's 3 lobes on the right and 2 lobes on the left. So that's how you landmark those, okay? The toughest part that I find, so you already have the lobes, the toughest part that people have struggled with is with the heart. So in those particular spaces, what part of the heart are you listening to? Okay, so you have to visualize how the heart is sitting. I'll put a picture up on the screen over there so you can take a look. And think about where the valves are, because that's essentially what you're listening to. You're listening to the valves. Okay, and those are the best places to listen to the valves. Okay, so the first 4 in the front of the chest, manubrium, intercostal space, ICS, the first and second. You can find that on the front as well, and then all the RICS and LICS in the front. On the back, just do the RICS and the LICS. Okay, you don't have to do the heart stuff on the back, obviously.
How
Okay?
do you find like where the second space is?
So underneath your clavicle is what? Which rib? First rib, typically. So you just go below that. So you do have to get through the pecs. Okay? So, what's that?
They're just so big.
You must work out. Well, it's just ballpark. Okay, now obviously with someone who's got a lot of muscle and tissue in between, it might be a little bit harder to hear. But you're kind of just ballparking it. A lot of these landmarks as well are usually what's called mid-clavicular. Okay, so you take the middle of your clavicular and draw a line straight down, and that's typically where you'd landmark. Either mid-clavicular or more lateral. Okay? Sound good? Okay, so just partner up. Locate those spaces and have a listen. And if you guys pick up any sounds that you just heard from those other task simulators, then just make a note of it. And then let the rest of the class know so you can have a listen as well. Okay?
Really hard to find.
Okay, 15 minutes. If you guys want to pull a curtain, feel free to.
Sorry.
Do you have a tape? No. Maybe. Or you can just reach down my shirt.
I don't know.
These guys will hold Christmas.
They won't break Louis. I guess people are doing impressions on them. This one's big.
You can probably use someone's back while they do the front.
Okay. Who wants to listen first?
I probably need my stethoscope. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you turn off the video camera before we take off our shirts?
Yes. Please do so.
I don't know how to turn it off.